This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Joviat. Tonight we're taking your calls, questions, and comments, your thoughts about Alabama's abortion laws. The 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. It's been almost a year since Roe v. Wade was overturned, and it's come back into the news this past week because of questions whether Huntsville might lose Space Command because of our abortion laws. And so we're curious to hear your thoughts on it, curious to hear where you stand, or if you've got questions about the law itself. Calling your questions, 536-0077. We also invite you to send email questions, and you can send an email question anytime, any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waytv.com, and when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out, and we've got an abortion question for you tonight. We've got with us Will Leake from Timberlake & Leake, here to answer questions, take comments.
Right.
You always like something for hearing what people think, you know, something a little bit edgier. You like to have things new. What is in the news today that affects people in Alabama?
You know, there's a lot of laws surrounding the new abortion laws, and you know, everyone has not only an opinion about it, but it's a visceral opinion, and also when you talk about religious lines and things like that. And so let's go back and kind of look at the history of Alabama's abortion laws. It was illegal. They're prosecuting people in the 50s, 60s, and here we go, 1973. Roe versus Wade, Supreme Court says that through the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, this local state cannot criminalize or penalize you for seeking or obtaining an abortion subject to reasonable standards. And so that's where we went. So Alabama's laws came in line with the federal law, as did the rest of the country. So let's rock along. In 1998, Alabama House passed the Women's Right to Know Act, which is basically a 24-hour cooling off period, and that was good. There was, you know, they were against a cooling off period for buying a firearm, but they were for a cooling off period for obtaining abortion to educate the mother and things like that. Then let's rock on to 2013 Women's Health and Safety Act, which is another blow to the abortion, you know, to the pro-choice folks, in that it required freestanding surgical suites and more requirements to have an operation, thereby putting some more businesses out of doctors out of business. And then in 2019, you've heard about, you know, Trump's appointments. It was revisited, and that law was changed. Now, Alabama had a trigger law, which basically, under the Human Life and Protection Act, it bans all abortions, one of the most restrictive laws of the land, without an exception for rape and incest, which is where we are today. And there are challenges to that particular, to this particular law, and it's still going to be fought out in the courts. Makes it a felony up to 99 years for performing an abortion.
Class A,
without,
right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And so some of the most restrictive, you know, in the country. And you know, so like Georgia, South Carolina, they've instituted 6-week bans, which is, in Texas, the heartbeat law, which is basically at 6 weeks, 2 weeks after a missed period. And so a lot of people do not know they're pregnant at that time. Alabama's not, you know, none. Georgia, South Carolina, 6 weeks. And so it's more restrictive, and you know, it's making it tough for access to, you know, for people who need this medical procedure. Yeah. And we're want to hear your thoughts on this particular issue. Alabama, or AL.com, reported that 31% of Alabamians supported a total ban on abortion without the rape and incest exclusion or exception. And so my question to you is, if only 31% of Alabamians are in favor, if that is the actual polling number, how is it law? You know, and so that's the law of the land, and it's not representative, according to this particular poll endorsed by the Wall Street Journal, that you know, a total ban. So interested in your thoughts on this particular topic, give us a call. Was it 256-536-0077?
And of course it affects all citizens, not just women, but I looked up some numbers. In 2020, in the state of Alabama, there were 5,700 abortions. And today, nearly 1 million women in Alabama are of reproductive age. Of course, it affects everybody. And it's always interesting. It's not just along religious lines. There are so many people with moral concerns and legal concerns. It's very interesting how it crosses, and it's a question for people. And for it to come out this week, the possibility of losing, maybe that we might lose Space Command over this. If it hits us financially, is that going to make a difference to us?
You know, it may. It's, you know, there is a big tug of war between us and Colorado. There was actual studies that were performed that actually said Alabama was leading on all the categories. I think the federal government just came out. It's a report that said that because of Alabama's total ban, that the federal government is now having issues for federal employees coming into Alabama and then not having access to women's reproductive rights. You know, Sharon, you do family law.
Yeah.
And prior to this law coming into effect, if the mother wanted to get an abortion, do they have to have the husband's consent? How did that work?
No, and what was also possible was that if you had a teenager that did not want to go to their parents, that they would be able to go through the court system and get a judge to approve them to go through this process and not have to tell a parent. And that's pretty controversial, with people thinking, wow, something like that going on, and I wouldn't even have to be informed about my teenager. I was really expecting, with the changes in the law, that we might, by now, it's been nearly a year, so if this change went into effect more than a year ago, I thought we were going to start seeing a huge surge in babies being put up for adoption. We're going to have a huge surge in babies out there that might not have been desired, and that we're going to see that in family law. I've seen maybe a little bit more adoption, but not so much, and I would like to know how the probate court is dealing with it. Are they seeing a huge surge? And DHR, whether they're seeing a huge surge. And
there's big court battles going on in Texas, up north on the morning after pill, or Plan B, and that litigation is starting to come into fruition as well. And it's interesting to note, that where women go to get these reproductive rights, what states are available. But again, is it a crime in Alabama to cross state lines for, to break the law?
Yeah.
And I think it might be.
Interesting. We've got callers with thoughts. Mike is calling from Huntsville. Hi, Mike. Thanks for calling. Tell us your thoughts or questions. What do you think about Alabama's abortion laws right now?
I don't like it.
Okay. What do you feel? What do you think it should
be? What I feel is they need to get all the older men and women out of Montgomery and put younger people in there that ain't able to have kids no more, and let the women do like they want to. I don't believe in abortions, but if a woman needs it, she needs it.
It's interesting to hear somebody say that, because it does feel like a lot of older people are making these decisions, and you talk to the younger generations, and I think they tend to be more pro-choice. Not all of them, of course, but it is interesting to see who's making these decisions, and of course the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, who's making the final decision. Well,
when it was settled law in 1973, and now we're back over 50 years where we were before we started, and so the appointments that were made in the last several years, that was revisited. Now, did they, and I agree with Mike, that, I haven't talked to anyone who says I'm pro-abortion.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not like
against
that.
it. But if you're pro-choice, then are you for abortion if the mother needs it, just like Mike said? And so looking at the laws, they thought it was well settled, but what did the Supreme Court do? They didn't really overturn. They said now that under the 14th Amendment, the states can now decide whether or not that on their own, whether or not it should be legal and to what extent. And so that's what's coming down. Under the 14th Amendment did protect all U.S. citizens, that the states couldn't come in and criminalize their conduct, but now that's gone. Yeah,
they're saying it's not in the Constitution. You don't have a constitutional right, so we're going to leave it up to the states. We've got Sandra on the line with a question or comment from Rogersville. Hi, Sandra, thanks for calling. What are your thoughts tonight?
I just don't understand how come states can't be states on their own and if people in California want to have their abortions, then let them have them. But here in the South, if we want to be conservative and not allow this, then why are people so upset? There's other places they can go.
True. So long as, and it's not quite settled whether you could leave Alabama and go there.
Let me ask you this, Sandra. So you're okay with them having them in another state, but not in Alabama?
Well, I mean, that's what makes this country great, is we have different places and diversity in different places, and let the South be, or the Bible Belt be the Bible Belt. Why do we have to all go with whatever this national government agenda is?
Well, let me ask you this. What if you got an 18-year-old girl who is in trouble and who is pregnant, and because she didn't choose to live here, her parents, that's where she was raised, and she's in trouble, she needs this. Let's say she was raped. Because she doesn't live in California, do you still think you would say, you know what, no, you can't get an abortion, Sandra? Would you say that?
I don't know that I would say no. I don't know what the situation would be, but I would try to find her, if that's what she had to do, a place to get that. But I don't know why people believe that the whole country has to accept some of these liberal ideas. I mean, why can't the country be conservative in one place and more liberal in other places? Why do we have to all go to this one agenda?
And I appreciate your point, really, because, again, but let's assume, to be honest, you said if the situation was she was raped and she needed one, you would help her find one. But then, and I'm not trying to trick you, I'm interested in your thoughts. But then you said, look, if she needed one, you would try and help her. So then you've admitted, or you would be committing a crime and could be put in jail for the rest of your life.
No, I wouldn't take her here if it was an emergency or some type of situation. I would get her where she needed to be. I mean, they're providing buses in some of these more liberal states, but I personally don't believe in it. But if there was some situation where she needed to, there are means and ways to get her to us. I don't understand why we cannot have states that can be more conservative and states that be more liberal. I mean, isn't that what the United States is made of?
That's a fair point.
Let
the states govern themselves.
Why do we have states anyway, right?
And I guess my answer would be for the one who didn't make the choice to live in Alabama, for the one that's here through no fault of her own, and I think you agree with me that you would help her in that scenario, but on the other side, it's illegal to do so. And that's the legal and moral dilemma that we all face in talking about these topics. We appreciate your call.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We look forward to hearing more of your thoughts and your comments. The 31 Law Call number, 256-536-0077. We'll be right back.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, where lawyers come to help. Your rights, your calls, live. Hosted by family law attorney Sharon Dovian, with the personal injury attorneys of one of the Valley's most respected law firms, Timberlake and League. Featuring the knowledge of managing partner Michael Timberlake, with millions of dollars awarded to his clients. And the experience of attorney Will League, a strong courtroom fighter known for his commitment to winning. And the fellow partners of Timberlake and League Heath Brooks and William Meservey. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Joviet. With us, Will League from Timberlake and League. They're personal injury attorneys, and they handle everything from car accidents to medical malpractice cases. We're talking tonight about Alabama's abortion laws and the restrictions. We're one of the tightest in the country. And a question that came up this week as to whether there's some possibility that Huntsville might lose the Space Command because of our restrictions, and whether the president may be pushing back on that. So we've got callers waiting. We look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on Alabama's abortion laws. We've got Connors on the line with a question or comment from Huntsville. Hi, Connors. Thanks for waiting. What's your question tonight or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question in regards to the decision of the Space Command.
Yeah.
And I also wondered if there's any other instances, or if y'all feel that the Alabama economy is being negatively impacted by the state's abortion laws.
You know, I don't know if I've seen it. Have we seen it? What do you think about that? If the federal government uses something like this to control the states, what do you think about that, Connors?
I don't know. I think that's a tough decision, and I was wondering, like, how does that play out in a court battle? I guess the question to ask is that something that can be fought in court? Can it go to the Supreme Court in that instance?
So your first question was whether or not it's negatively affecting the economy in Alabama.
Already. You think it is?
Well, there's some studies about our laws maybe help bring big business in. There's also the debate about whether we're sending too much manufacturing overseas and all that. But again, your local laws affect whether or not you bring big business in. In this particular case, Space Command, it's a decision by the federal government as to where to put it. Now, it's my understanding there is criteria that Alabama won in every single category, and it may be politicized, probably is. But now they're saying, you know what, because of our laws, because of our total ban on abortion, they're not going to put Space Command here. Is that a done deal? I don't know. We won all the run-ups and the criteria, but now that we're getting pushback, where that lands, Sharon, we will see. But can Alabama make a claim like Connors is suggesting?
Can we sue over it? I don't know. It sounds like there's one final decision. I forget the man's name who is in charge of making that decision. And in the past, he'd said he was looking like Huntsville. But if he backtracked and said, no, you know what, we're going to leave it in Colorado or wherever we're going to put it, can you sue over that?
Well,
I don't know.
It's interesting because are they denying us our due process by, we win all the criteria and they deny it based on a local law, which it's not illegal to do what we did. The Supreme Court has said that we have the right to manage and govern our own state, and that's what we're doing, but we're being penalized by the federal government for exercising that right. Whether you agree or disagree, but that's what we're looking at right now, and possibly it could be a litigation over this particular decision if we find that Alabama was denied our right, to govern ourselves, and if this truly is the decision, which is probably politics, but again, just hey, I'm in Alabama, we won all the criteria, let's bring it in.
Or will Montgomery put their money where their mouth is? Or will they change their tune and say, hey, if we're going to lose out on cash, I don't know.
Or at least back it up to 6 to 8 weeks like it is in
like
South
some
Carolina.
other
In other words, we are one of the most restrictive places in America.
We've got Christy on the line with a question or comment from Madison. Hi, Christy. Thanks for calling. What are your thoughts on this tonight?
Hello. I have a comment.
Okay.
Everyone's talking about the abortion laws and things, but one thing that they must not forget, are we going to go back to the days where you have the backroom abortion, where people are setting up abortion houses and clinics through the back doors or the alleys? Do we want to go back that far in history and put women's lives, not only the women, but the children's lives in danger? We must think about that. Also, my biggest complaint is, why is it always put back on the woman, that it's the woman's body and things of that nature, and then turn around and say, okay, we lost this big bid because of the abortion law, putting it back on the woman. So let's take that off the thing, and when we talk about states' rights and whatever, but we must understand that we are getting money from the federal government and things of this nature. So my major concern is going back to the days of the shot houses where women go and have abortions illegally and left to die.
And Christy, let me ask you this, and to be reasonable, be pragmatic about it. I mean, history's shown us that humans are not going to stop the conduct that get women pregnant. And so if that's the case, or you got rape and incest, history's shown us that that's going to continue to happen.
Exactly.
And so women will be in trouble or will have a need. And it's, to answer your question, yes, sadly, we've gone 50 years plus backwards.
Exactly.
And so, sometimes I'll talk to people about this issue, and people are like, you know what, well, if my person needs it, I'll get them help and I'll do this and whatnot. But what about the people who don't have those things, who don't have those tools at their fingertips to help themselves or help a loved one? And Christy, thank you for your call. And yeah, it looks like we are going back over 50 years. I don't know if Montgomery will change their tune, Sharon, by losing just that. I tend to think that they will not, based on the path that they've gone so far.
I've been amazed with some of the companies that are coming out of the woodwork saying they would pay for their employees to go to other states and have abortions, or pay for their dependents and members of their households. And you think, my goodness, where do they get this money from? Some of the places I've worked before, you couldn't get a raise, but suddenly they've got $8,000 to pay you to go to another state. Why is that? You start tracking the money. Why?
Much more complicated, much more things. And when you talk about Alabama and Huntsville specifically, maybe losing Space Command over this particular issue, you know, it's there's many things about that's troubling.
So we got this email question in from Terry. Terry had written in, what does the law say about emergency contraceptions like Plan B? Is it a criminal offense to possess it even if you got it in another state? Okay, so what I'd read was talking about the morning after pill, those kind of things would not be affected because when we're talking about terminating a pregnancy, the abortion laws would only apply when a fertilized egg has been implanted in the uterine wall. That's when it's considered a pregnancy. So if you do something after that point, then you're violating the law. But if you took a pill that prevented the fertilized egg from implanting, then you haven't broken the law. Now, if you're talking about getting pills or something from another state, I was seeing some things talking about you as the woman who would be receiving the pills, you're not in trouble, but the Attorney General could go after the provider who sent pills if it falls outside of this window of the protections. So it will be interesting, and when we were talking before about the back rooms, so the woman who went to get an abortion, she's not in trouble, but the person who provided it or tried to provide it for her, that's the person that's facing a Class A felony.
You know, and same issue with Plan B in Texas. It's a heartbeat law. So basically 6 weeks, not as restrictive as Alabama, mind you. Even Texas has got 6 weeks, Alabama has 0. But under the heartbeat law, it'd be 6 to 8 weeks before a heartbeat would be detected. So therefore, Plan B I don't think would be illegal there. But again, have to look at their particular law. But right now, as long as it's not considered a pregnancy, I think it's okay. But again, you may want to check with your attorney before you take that, which again, it'd be taken up to 5 days after unprotected sex. I think that's the case.
We're going to take a break. Be right back, taking more of your comments and questions, talking about Alabama's abortion law. Stay with us. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Will League with Timberlake and League in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502, or check out the website law-injury.com and check them out on Facebook and learn more about the law that way.
And family law attorney Sharon Dovey at 539-7337, SharonFamilyLaw.com.
In your world, car accidents, if somebody hurts a pregnant woman and she loses the fetus, you've got a lawsuit, right?
Well, you know, the laws are changing. Is it viable? Is there a separate action? Is it derivative? You have to look at the insurance, see how far along the mother was, what stage of pregnancy was, all those things. And when you talk about criminal cases, when you reckon someone and you kill the mother and maybe an unborn child, there could be criminal implications for that as well.
Right,
absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, all those things come into play when you talk about the personal injury. There's been so much surrounding this debate, and with the presidential election coming up. But what really struck me tonight in looking at the things to get ready for this show is that if the polling is right and only 31% of Alabamians feel that a total ban is what we should have, then how is 30% running the show? Yeah. And it's going to cost Huntsville and many young women if this law is not overturned. And that is the direct effect of the Supreme Court nominations that Trump had.
It was.
So, you know, if that's your side, then good job. If it's not, that's what happened.
Thanks for all your calls and questions tonight. We'll see you next week.